Content warning. This episode contains references to the following: animal bones, food. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to MazanderCast,
a Persian podcast about myth, magic, and mostahiyar. I'm your co-host, Seth.
and I'm your co-host, Sarah. We're glad you're here with us for another episode, so get your tea
Or your coffee, maybe some snacks while you're at it.
and let the adventure begin.
Our adventure today is going to include some food.
Some food.
Okay, a lot of food. I don't think two stomachs are going to actually cut it for this episode.
All right, so let's bring in a third stomach. We're going to bring in our first guest of the podcast.
We'd like to welcome Laura from Plumas de Simurgh. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, I am Laura and I love food. I volunteer to be the third stomach now and always.
I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to talk about so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I was hoping we could do something together and I am legit. I'm excited. I'm happy and I'm very grateful. Thank you, MazanderCast people, for having me.
It's going to be awesome.
This is a definite geek out moment for us as well. We've been watching your streams for a long time, and it's amazing to get to talk to you about some food today.
Oh, yeah. And we've talked a lot outside of podcasting. And of course, we've mentioned your show on our own episodes and stuff. So just a brush up for our guests or for our audience. Laura has her own channel where she talks about Persian history and culture. She's doing her own reading of the Shahnameh. So again, we're really excited to have you here. We're not going to talk about mythology, but we are going to be talking about one of the most essential parts of any culture, the food. So Laura, what's your experience on Persian food?
I think I need to start by saying that thank you for all the absolutely free publicity and advertisement you're giving me. I mean, I normally, because I don't know, listeners of MazanderCast, I am a big fan of MazanderCast. I'm confessing right now how obsessed I am with them. And I always blush to the point I look like a very red bell pepper when they mention me. So thank you for that. You're just a treat. You're just the cutest. And coming to food, I am a foodie. I love food, and I've had the chance to eat tons of Iranian food, not only in restaurants, like foreign restaurants, I mean outside Iran, but also in Iran itself. And I was living there for a time, and I just had as much food as I could because I really, really like it. We're going to talk about some details on it because I'm not into the sweet stuff.
And that's awesome, though, because you're not into the sweet stuff, but I am definitely into the sweet stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, Seth.
Oh, for sure. I'll admit one of my favorite things about Iranian food and snacks is definitely the wealth of unique flavors to it, but they can definitely do sweet. We'll talk a little bit more about those flavors as we get into it.
Well, the good thing is, if we ever, which I hope we will, go to an Iranian restaurant or we have lunch in Iran together, you can have my share of the sweets. I am the perfect company.
We'll walk through and try all the food stations, and all of us are going to cover some form of food there because all of us have
Well, I hope we all brought our snacks for this one. I think this is going to make us all hungry by the end of it.
For sure. I got my tea. I got, funny enough, I have slices of cucumbers with salt on them, which is a very popular Persian snack. But also, those of you who are at home, later on in the episode, we're going to be covering some of the simpler recipes that you can try at home. So you should totally have a notepad handy if you're interested.
And we'll post these recipes to our Twitter, so you don't hopefully have to write them down entirely. So, just follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter. And with that, let's get started. Huh?
You got your notepad? Yeah, I have a notepad and it says notes in it. So I'm going to take notes.
So we're all set. We got a notepad on our own side too. So let's start with one of the most essential parts of Iranian food, which is bread and rice. Like no matter what meal you have,
The two food groups, honestly.
You're either going to have bread or rice. Now, I don't know.
Or both.
Or both. So many of them do have both.
Exactly.
So I don't know if y'all know this, but rice actually didn't originate in Iran. It came from China. And then through the Silk Road, it came on over. And even then, it was mostly grown in the northern part of Iran. They only really use it as a delicacy for ceremonies and stuff. It wasn't like very, very widespread. Of course, now in modern day, everybody's eating it. But way back in the day, we had rice come in. And before then, we had bread. Bread has been like a huge thing since then. So I wanted to ask you guys, what are some of your experiences with Persian bread?
You go ahead and start, Laura.
Okay, so I really like, I mean, I'm a Mediterranean person, so bread is big in my culture and in my culture. So I really like that. It was very interesting because back in Iran, you don't have the bread I'm used to, which is the loaf of bread or the baguette style. Mm-hmm. But you have similar breads to those we have in the Mediterranean, like what we call in Spain, we call pan de pueblo, I mean, the bread from the town. And I really like barbari and sangak. Mm-hmm. But also I was impressed on how cheap bread is in Iran. Like literally for nothing you can get a massive piece, and it's very rich. And I really liked the I don't know, I like it on its own, like that's the only thing I can say. But I have to say there's one particular type of bread I hate.
Oh no.
Bebashit Iranian people. Yeah. Nafseiruni bebashit. I am really sorry, but I really hate lavash because it tastes like handkerchiefs to me. It's paper.
I think you're gonna have to start a fight with us because lavash is one of our more favorite.
Oddly enough, I had lavash for breakfast this morning.
It's paper. Maybe the one you consume it is higher quality than the one they used to give me. Like in street places in Iran, they would just give it to you with your bowl of ash or soup or kaske badam jun. We're gonna talk about them. Do not worry.
Well, I will say that lavash is a little bit more of like a side dish that it's supposed to be part of something else that has its own flavors and stuff. So it's supposed to help enhance another flavor. It shouldn't have its own flavor. So maybe that's why you got excited about, they all have different flavors. And lavash is a little bit more plain in its flavor.
I will admit lavash tastes best when you have toppings with it. Like for instance, what I typically eat for breakfast, I'll take a piece of lavash. And Sarah, you actually taught me to do this. I will spread a little sheep cheese on it and put some sliced cucumbers or some walnuts on it. It tastes amazing when it's in that combination. But I can see maybe a little bit where Laura's coming from.
It is like eating paper.
So I actually realized that we all know what lavash is, but I don't think our audience knows what lavash is.
Yeah, I mentioned also sangak and barbari. I don't think I've introduced them properly, but you go ahead, Sarah. You take as a proper Iranian here.
half proper at least. I guess the best way to describe lavash is that it's very flat. It's very flat, very thin bread. In fact, now that I think about it, a lot of Iranian bread doesn't have that big loaf shape that we're kind of used to here in the West. You think about the sandwich bread that you get at the grocery store, or like you said earlier, Lara, a baguette. Like those are big and whole, but a lot of Iranian breads are a lot flatter. And I think that does include lavash for sure. It's a very flat bread, very thin. And a lot of times you use it, you can crumple it up and add it to a soup. You can use it, kind of like almost, you know what? I just realized it's as flat as a tortilla.
Yes,
but tortillas are better.
I think because you're Spanish, you have a little bit of a bias there.
To be fair, in Spain,
because I'm Persian, so there we go.
In Spain, we don't have tortillas. That's something that from South America. But I have a very strong. I'm going to admit that I have because of my life, I have a very strong connection with Guatemala, and they do use tortillas there. So yeah.
There we go. I learned something new today. For some reason, I thought that it was a type of bread that came from Spain.
No, we have tortilla de patatas, which is a Spanish omelette, but that has potatoes and eggs. So no, not that tortilla. Not all tortillas are the same.
But yeah, that's lavash. You mentioned Nuna Barbari earlier.
I'm
That's a little bit thicker. Oh my gosh, Nuna Barbari is good. Go ahead and try describing that one. I'll let you describe this one.
All right, so it's one of the thickest ones, I think, in Iran. Is flat, actually, and is topped with some sesame seeds sometimes, or other seeds that I don't know. Might not know exactly the provenance, but the ones I've normally I've eaten, they are sesame. And I think the crust, I would describe that like a pretzel, more or less, the final crust, because it's cool, but it's flat and is rectangular-ish because it's like oval shape, but it's long rather than it's wide. And I think that's more or less. It's very, very rich in the inside. It's very and you can, when you cut it, you can cut. It has some stripes. I don't know if the stripes are formed by the bread makers or naturally formed when they cook.
It's kind of just the way that it bakes. It makes those natural lines in the bread. Yeah,
and you can actually just cut. There you can just peel the tiny lines, and you can eat them with whatever you want or on its own, like I'm like I did. So yeah, I really like. The thing is, I am a bird, so anything with seeds is like yes.
And you were right that typically on top of the Nuna Barbari, you have little sesame seeds on top, and also it's a lot thicker than lavash. I would say. What, it's like like half an inch thick of bread?
Oh, it's thicker than that. It's probably like a full inch thick.
Inch thick.
It takes up the whole like thickness of the pan, just about.
Just as I'm doing a disclaimer, like I don't do inches, so I think I'm just
25,
we got our American
25 millimeters.
45 millimeters. My goodness gracious, that is a specific. I'm just like it's thick. Yeah, I would say rough. Yeah.
About as thick as the top part of your thumb, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. But Seth, what do you know the sangak one?
I don't actually.
Oh, was actually that's
a new one
bread.
On me.
Yeah, that's the bread that was traditionally given to the army in Iran, and I think the recipe for sangak, we believe, is as ancient as the 11th century, and it's just a type of bread that cooks in a stone oven, but you don't put it on the flat surface. Nay, you put it on top of the oven, you throw it against the walls of the oven, and it goes up
on the side of the wall of the oven.
Exactly, it's great.
It's there. You stick the dough there and it just bakes there.
And then you peel it off and hand it to people.
Yes, you do. And they top it with seeds too. And it's amazing to see how professionals and traditional bakers literally throw the dough onto the oven. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why is that?
Also, the name Nuna Sangak. Noon means bread. Sangak is like rocks. Sang is rock. So Nuna Sangak. Rock bread. Yeah. Because it's cooked on a rock.
I got a pebble in mine.
Yeah. And you actually have the tiny holes from the dough spreading when gravity makes its job, as like to spread. Is the sangak the ak thing the same as kuchak, like the tiny stone or something like that?
It is, yes.
Be, right?
So it's like on top of like the little rocks that you use specifically for Nuna Sangak. And you mentioned how you kind of throw it up against an oven. Nowadays in modern day Iran, there's a lot of bakeries, but in the old days, especially in the villages, they didn't have like a bakery. You had your own oven inside your own home. You made your own bread. So a lot of places had just these very small oven areas where you just make your own bread, and they would do it exactly like that. Slap it up against the wall, let it cook there, and then just peel it off when it's ready.
Okay, so I did a Google image search of Nuna Sangak, and I'm seeing where people have made their own do-it-yourself ovens. And I'm looking at one where it's just a pan that they have laid some river stones on and then spread the dough on.
I think I'm looking at the same picture. I like that people just hang, when you go to traditional bakeries, the bread is literally hanging from the walls, and you can pick it up, or someone will pick it up for you. There's like, it's like traditionally how you would display meat, but it's bread.
Yep. It's such a huge thing. And again, slap it against the wall or cook it over a bunch of itty bitty rocks like you saw, you know, it's bread cooking over a bunch of river rocks, essentially. Yep.
Rock bread.
Rock bread.
So as an Iranian, half Iranian, Sarah, is your favorite bread lavash?
Actually, my favorite is Nuna Barbari because the way my mother makes it is so good. She makes it absolutely. I love the, you know, you said it has like a pretzel crust on the outside and then it's so soft on the inside.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And also, and this is just a thing, this is not a traditional Persian thing to do, but I really like spreading Nutella on my Nuna Barbari. That's one of my favorite things to eat as a kid.
Into the void with tradition. I eat my Nuna Barbari with Nutella too.
There you go.
I like that.
I can't help it. And, you know, Seth was mentioning earlier how his breakfast was lavash with
Sheep cheese.
Yeah, either sheep or goat cheese and then like walnuts or cucumbers. But like that's a very common thing in Iran is your breakfast is bread with something that you spread over it and eat it with. So cream and honey.
We're going to talk about breakfast in Iran.
Oh gosh.
Talk about that.
We might need to. It's
Let's
because
do it.
we're still talking about bread and bread is a big staple for Persian breakfasts. But I think for Persian breakfast, it's definitely a cup of tea.
I mean, of course, yeah. That's like
tea goes with everything.
You have to like you need that into your bloodstream to work, to function properly. You normally have those omelettes, the omelette that involve eggs and tomato, and sometimes you put paneer, that is cheese on it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this white block cheese? I think it's from the cow, but it could be actually from sheep too.
I think it's actually either goat or sheep cheese because that's very common to eat goat or sheep cheese.
Mm-hmm. And then you have your omelette, and you can have also cucumber, you can have tomato, and you can have some just I've actually had in Iranian, like supposedly to be traditional places, I've just had jam and butter with bread.
That too. There's a lot of nice jams too. Like sour cherry is a very popular flavor in Iran, and so sour cherry jam is a big one as well. I love it so much.
Yeah, I like that one too.
But yeah, Persian breakfasts are usually very light. It's just kind of something easy to make and quick on the go. I think the most complicated it gets is the omelet that you mentioned, but usually it's just bread and then you put something on the bread and you eat it. And I think it's because I don't know why. I don't know why our breakfast is so light.
Probably because dinner is so massive.
The dinners are huge.
They are.
You've got to fast to get to that dinner.
You practically do need to fast to prepare your stomach for a Persian dinner.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's then it's really what's the name of these? Oh yeah, the omelette khorma and asal, which is with honey and khorma, which are dates.
Yes.
That is okay. So much.
So sweet.
I'm hearing you, audience. Stop the ew part. Stop it. Let me explain. You put eggs, like scrambled eggs, and then you put a wee bit of cinnamon, wee bit of honey if you are into that. I'm not particularly a big fan of honey. But then you put khorma or dates in the mixture, and you finish cooking the omelette with those. I know how it sounds. I do know, but give it a chance. It's good.
There's a lot of very unique things that, you hear it at first and you're like, I don't think that's going to be great. And then you try it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. So yeah, I think, and this just kind of goes with any culture that you're experiencing. Every culture is going to have something that you're like, why would you make that combination? But people are putting that combo together and eating it for a reason. Give it a shot.
Exactly.
So that was the Persian breakfast. I know I mentioned the tea. We should get into the tea.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, let's talk about tea.
Oh, gosh. So,
in fact, I do have some tea left.
Oh, good. We've all been sipping on tea here, and I think I'm getting to the bottom of my cup
and
already.
Now I'm out of tea. All right.
Well, you can't come for my cup. I'm not letting you.
So you don't have a samovar or a teacup?
Oh, we do have a samovar. We do.
You don't use it?
We use it, absolutely.
Yeah, we made the tea that we're drinking right now in our samovar.
Okay,
in fact,
good.
Seth, I'm going to let you cover this one. What is a samovar?
Ooh.
So a samovar is a metal device used to heat the water as well as brew the tea. It's kind of a tall metal vessel that's meant to sit on top of your oven or on top of a fire, or some of them have an electric heater attached, but basically it heats this tank of water, and the steam rises from the water up to where you have your teapot. And the teapot sits on top of the samovar, and the steam heats the tea to brew it from the bottom. So basically, you've got kind of an all-in-one tea making machine.
And the really cool thing with this device is that you can decide how strong or how weak you want your tea to be.
Exactly.
So like you take your teacup, you pour a little bit of the tea in that top teapot in there, however strong you want it to be. And then you add the hot water from the big pot, and that decides how strong or how weak you want your tea. Which is
the teapot
so awesome.
Contains like this very strong mixture, and then you're meant to weaken that by pouring in water from a spout in the side if you don't want it to be that strong. I like my tea very strong, so usually mine ends up being like half and half.
I have to add a whole lot of tea leaves to the top of our teapot to make up for that.
I would love to get a samovar of my own.
They are really hard to find. I think a lot of modern day people prefer to get the electric ones, because I will say the one that we have sits on the stove and it takes up space on our stove. So like if we want to cook or something, we have to find a place to put the samovar. But if we had an electric one, it could just stand on its own and do its own thing.
Yeah.
My mom has an electric samovar, and I
think it's a Russian thing. It's not Iranian.
It is.
It Russian? Yeah.
It was brought in from Russia. This is originally a Russian design. But it's everywhere in Iran now. I don't know when the Russians introduced it to us. I don't know.
It's been like around the 17th century. They're just taking, I don't know, I'm making things up entirely. But,
I don't know the exact date, but it has been around for a long time. But it was originally introduced by Russia. It's originally a Russian device.
Thank you, Russia, for so many beautiful things. One of them, the samovar.
We got to thank China for the rice. We got to thank Russia for the samovar and the tea.
So it was invented in the mid 18th century.
I was not that mistaken. I said 17th. Actually, 17th is really early. It's still the Safavids around.
I really don't know a lot about Russia in the 18th century. I'm realizing.
Well, we know that they made the samovar, and really, what else do we need to know?
And we are grateful for that.
We are so grateful. Thank you, Russia. So as far as I know, this is a big question that a lot of people ask me. They ask me, what kinds of tea do you have in Iran? And I've always kind of said it's kind of just black tea. Like
it's a really good black tea.
It's a really good black tea, but like, you know, when you go to a coffee shop or any store that sells you hot drinks, there's like a whole variety of different kinds of teas you can try. There's jasmine tea and strawberry tea and like all kinds of herbal teas. But when it comes to Iran, we kind of just have the black tea. And I asked my mom about this actually before we did this episode. I was like, Mom, are there other kinds of tea? And she mentioned this one. Laura, I don't know if you've heard of this. It's basically purple cow tongue tea.
Yeah. That's the English word for it.
Yeah, I think we've commented on this like in the past. Yeah, the purple cow. Yeah, it's a special one, I must say. Have you ever had it? I haven't had it.
I've not only never had it, I've never heard of it. And then my mom's like, "Oh yeah, it's a very common thing." And apparently, it's a purple flower. We couldn't figure out exactly what kind of purple flower it was, but it's a purple flower that's grown in Iran, and then you take the petals from that flower and you make an herbal tea out of it. And apparently, when I did my research, a lot of Iranians mentioned it's a very strong smell. It's very powerful scent.
I think I've heard of it, but never had it, never smelled it.
Yeah. So if there's any Iranians that are listening, if you can give us your experiences on drinking Golegab Zaban, we'd love to hear it. And I think the next time I go to a Middle Eastern store, if I see it, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to try it. We'll see what it's all about.
Yeah, it says like it's called the borage or something. I don't know in English.
Borage.
Borage is the name of the herb.
How do you spell it?
Is it Borage? I don't know if that's the name of a plant or something. But it's also known as buglos and starflower. Ooh. We're supposed to have this in Spain too. Do we? Can we make tea out of it?
Just go out and pluck flowers and see what kind of tea you can make out of it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask my family. Maybe don't know. Is borracha? Of course we have borracha. I know this one. You can make tea out of borracha? Because we have a saying in Spain, like when something is not useful, when something, even if you did something, it was worth nothing, it didn't serve any purpose, we say that it ended up being water of these flowers, agua de borrajas. And like, does it have something to do with the tea?
Huh. Wait, are they saying the tea is useless?
I don't know. Oh my goodness. I have so much.
Interesting.
I have so much to research on this. It was said apparently back in the day, it was said that if a woman stepped in the leaf of a borraja, she would be pregnant.
Oh.
And they said in Spain we use the mixture with the tea of it to make someone sweat.
Huh, that's interesting.
Is this the same thing? Oh my goodness!
We may have to do some more research on the borage flower and the tea you can make out of it. The borraja.
Borraja, yeah. I'm just, oh my God, I think I've even seen this one.
Let's find out more about it.
I'm going to ask people, like, is there a way you will link this plant to a cow's tongue? Because
there's a lot of different descriptions of foods and stuff in Iran. Like, seeb is apple. Seeb zamani is what's that?
That's the apple of the earth.
Which is?
Specifically a potato.
Which is the pomme de terre, like from French.
Pomme de terre is what it's called in French?
Yeah, I think it comes from there.
Oh my gosh.
Because, in Iran, there was no potatoes. They came from the American continent. So it was like, oh, what is it? I don't know. It's an apple that comes out of the earth. So it's an apple from the earth.
Apple from the earth. And if you look at a potato and the white meat of the potato, it's like, yeah, that is like an apple.
It's kind of like an apple with a really ugly skin. And it doesn't taste like an apple at all.
No, it doesn't taste anywhere like an apple.
I would never eat a potato like that, you heathens.
But since we're talking about, I really like something about the tea in Iran, and is that you can get, for certain, it's not that you only have black teas, like you only grow black tea in Iran, only black tea is harvested, I mean, as in Iranian product, but you can import teas from, I had all wide variety of teas there, but you really have, when you go to a traditional tea house, you have the very big chunks of cinnamon, of hell, of cardamom, of darchin. I was going to say docharche. Docharche is bicycle, okay?
Yeah, don't put a docharche in your tea.
It's just all right. This is a stupid joke between me and my friend Raul. If you're listening, that is you, because we used to call the chaye darchin, which is like the tea with cinnamon, chaye docharche, because I have dyslexia and I confuse in my mind darchin and docharche. So yes, bicycle tea. Don't put a bike in your tea.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because like you said, in a lot of tea shops, you'll go there, you'll get your regular tea, and then you can put stuff in the tea. You mentioned cinnamon sticks. You can just put a stick of cinnamon in there. You can put just a cardamom pod in there. And then I know they also will take like the little tiny rosebuds.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Rosebud in your tea as well.
My personal favorite are these little strings of rock candy that you can stir your tea with.
I was gonna say
at the same time.
I was gonna say
some of them are saffron flavored.
They come
talk about put things in your tea. The sugar.
The sugar cube is an important part of Iranian tea drinking.
Because you have the nabat, which is the thing just said described as raw candy. And actually, according to Iranian Modar Bozorg, that is grammars, it will cure anything.
That's what they say. Ab nabat. It's water with hot water and rock candy. And apparently that solves everything.
is the panacea universal.
Yeah.
But
I'm sick. If I'm sick and I'm at home, my mother makes me odd nabat.
Said, what is it with the sugar cube? I want you to explain it.
So the sugar cube is a way of it's basically an excuse to eat sugar directly. You take a sugar cube, like what you would buy at the store, you dip it lightly in your tea and watch the tea kind of absorb into the sugar crystals. And then you take the sugar cube with the tea in it and you suck the tea out of the sugar cube.
And then
Often
you leave
taking
the
a
sugar
big
cube.
chunk of sugar into your mouth with it.
Then you leave the sugar cube in your mouth as you proceed to drink the rest of your tea.
No, you do what I do, and you go back and you double dip it.
No, Seth, you're not supposed to do that.
I thought that was you showed me, and I thought that's what you were supposed to do for the longest time.
But
I
it's
didn't know
not
you
a
were supposed to.
it's not a biscuit, Seb. It's not a biscuit. It's just a cube.
It's a
It
cube
melts.
of sugar that gets very sticky in your fingers as you try
Which
to.
is why after you dip it that first time, you leave it in your mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
You would be surprised. The first time I was in Iran, I saw people. All right, I mean, a little bit of background, like the context here. I never put sugar in my tea. So when I came to Iran and I saw people literally eating the sugar, I was like, oh my God. And this is nothing to do with, like, I have no problem with sugar. As I say, I have my known barbary with Nutella. Is I don't like the flavor of raw, pure white sugar. But apparently Iranians do. And I was there like, oh my God, your teeth, the cavities.
That's why you brush your teeth.
Yep.
Okay.
Brush your teeth like 4 times.
You
a day.
have what, 3 to 4 cubes if you have a nice big teapot? Sarah, you cannot defend this one.
I will say that, especially because I've grown up here in the US, I much prefer just adding sugar and then mixing it in with a spoon. But you know, if you think about it, I don't think when you don't have a lot of utensils, you just put the sugar cube in your mouth. That's one less utensil you have to worry about, you know, getting dirty and messing with.
You use your finger.
Have you washed your hand though?
Animal.
I did, but for your information.
How hot is that tea? You'll burn your finger.
Then don't put sugar in it.
It's good with the sugar.
She's made her point. We have to let it rest there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because talking about sugar, I would like to move to a very interesting point, which is some point of digression here. So people, defenders, sweet teeth out there, assemble and come against me. You people in favor of shirini, which are sweet. Why?
I'll tell you why. It tastes good. But anyway.
I think you are the person to talk. You are the person to talk about Iranian sweets. You know better than me.
That we'll have to agree to disagree. Some people like tea in their sugar. Some people don't. Either way.
You said some
options.
people. I'm gonna stop you right there. You said some people like tea in their sugar.
Oh my goodness.
So you right. Just
let me try that again. Let me try.
No. You described it exactly. Some Iranians like to add some drops of tea in their sugar.
Just take that sugar bowl and keep coming.
Yeah. Also, by the way,
yes,
people, you don't know. I don't know if Sarah has developed this superpower, because I hope she has, because she's Iranian.
I don't share my power with anyone.
No. Iranians are actually dragons, because they can drink the tea straight from the teapot as it is boiling. And I'm not talking about having a sip. No. My Iranian friends, they down their teas when it's piping hot.
That is true. That does happen a lot.
I have also noticed this. Your mom has this superpower.
Yep.
Because they are
But I don't think I've ever seen you do it.
That would be because I inherited my American father's tongue and I can't do it.
But I am saying, I mean, when you go to Iran or you are invited to an Iranian house and you serve tea and you see they immediately drink it, do not follow.
Well, what's funny is that if you don't follow, they'll be like, why aren't you drinking your tea? It's going to get cold. And when you wait until it's the temperature that it's right, they're like, it's cold already. What's wrong with you?
Here, let me pour you a new cup.
they laugh a lot with me because I would call them ejderha, which is dragon in Persian, and they will die like, oh no, you can do it too. Like, I'm not trying.
There have been several trips to Iran where I have gone there and like, I will always at some point burn my tongue and deal with that for a few days because I'm trying to be polite and drink the tea at the same rate as everyone else. But
yes,
my American tongue, I can't handle it.
I think you guys, because Steph is also a very big fan of sweets. So why don't you tell your favorite, like the top snacks / sweet things people have to have to learn about Iran?
Yeah, let's get into snacks.
I do want to get into snacks now. Let's see.
As far as like stuff that I enjoy, I really love Iranian tea cakes, specifically chickpea cookies. Those are my favorite. I really like the ones that come with some kind of jam in between them.
Or a pistachio on the top.
Right. They come in like a million different varieties. You can go to any Middle Eastern grocery store and get them here in the United States. They're just amazing. We bought a bunch of them for Nowruz this year, and I have been just pounding through them. We bought a lot of those cookies.
The really good thing is that when you have these tea cakes with your tea, there is no need to put sugar in your tea because the combination is so good.
Yeah, you take a little bite of your chickpea cookie and it has kind of this, this won't sound very appetizing, but it has kind of this dusty texture to it where it kind of disintegrates in your mouth immediately. And then it's basically like a lump of sugar in your mouth. And going back to what we were just talking about, then the tea washes that all down and you go back for another bite. Yeah, it's really good with non-sweetened tea.
And I think if I was going to choose a snack that I really liked, and anyone who knows me is like, oh boy, here it comes. I love tokhme, which is here it goes, roasted seeds. I am such a huge fan of roasted seeds. And in Iran, it's huge. Over here in the United States, the only roasted seeds we really have are sunflower seeds. Occasionally we'll have pumpkin seeds. And the way it's flavored is just not great over here. I'll be honest with you guys. But over in Iran, they flavor it with salt and lemon and even saffron sometimes. And it's so delicious. And like every time I go to Iran, my relatives get tired of me saying this, but like, what do you want from Iran? What would you like us to get you? I'm like, tokhme, please just give me the tokhme japani, which is like the melon seeds. I like the sunflower seeds, which are way bigger than what we have in the US. There's something called aji, which is basically a mix of regular nuts like pistachios and almonds and cashews mixed with like roasted seeds as well.
All right. Look, we have to talk about Iranian pistachios and how they're so much better than American pistachios.
Yeah.
So American pistachios, they come in these little white shells and they're still green on the inside. No, forget that. In Iran, they roast those and they have this coating that's all over the outside of the shell. So when you open the shell, you get this delicious pistachio that's been flavored with lemon, salt, maybe even honey. And then you get to suck on the shells to get all of the rest of the flavor off of the shells.
Whereas in the US, you don't want to do that because it's just so much salt on it. And it's like, ugh.
That is what my father, your father-in-law asks for when you go to Iran.
Yep. So every time I go to Iran for Seth's father, I have to bring him back pistachios every time.
I would make you bring me pistachios too.
I know. I'm starting to crave those pistachios now.
Oh.
Anyways, we were talking about our favorite snacks, but Laura, I want to hear from you. What's one of your favorite Iranian snacks?
All right. So I am a sour too. So I love lavashak because it's sour.
That's good stuff.
So describe what lavashak is to our listeners.
Okay. It's rolls. It's a roll of dried fruit. But fruit, I mean, you process the fruit before. You make like a paste. You actually just like smash all the fruit together and you make a paste. And then you spread it. And then when it's dry, it's like, I think Sarah has been describing it like leather. It actually looks like leather and you roll it.
Like leather.
And it's what we would call fruit leather here in the United States.
Yeah, so exactly. I don't know if this is something that y'all have over in Europe, but here in the US, we have a very popular kid snack called fruit roll-up, which is just
I think I know
long,
of it.
thin fruit leather, but it's so super sweet over here. So I think anyone who's listening is like, oh, I know fruit roll-up. Listen, fruit roll-up is super sugary sweet. Lavash shack is sour. And as a kid, I actually didn't like lavash shack because I grew up with fruit roll-up over here in the US. I go to Iran and be like, oh, that's fruit roll-up, and expect the sugary sweetness and get pounded in the tongue with the sourness. It just hit me like a truck. And so as a kid, I didn't like it. Now that I'm a grown-up, I love lavash shack because I am expecting it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So
very
good.
nice. I like lavash shack. And I also like that in Iran, you can actually get juices, like multiple juices on the street, literally tiny places on the street. And my favorite is a havish, which is carrot juice, or a anar, which is the pomegranate, because pomegranate is sour, and
It's
I
very
really like it.
sour.
I remember when me and one of my friends, we went to the bazaar in Tehran to I think it was Tajrish. Possibly, I don't remember.
Oh,
There's
it's
a place you can
Tadrish. I
get-
love Tadrish. They have that little smoothie shop. Oh my goodness, I love it.
So we got one and we both tried at the same time, and she was like, "Whoa," and I thought I was just in heaven. I was on cloud nine with that sour punch. It's like, yes, thank you. So yeah, I really that's what I like. But I've seen something, because in Iran, if you've been listening like you should to MazanderCast, you would know the importance of watermelon in Iran as a symbol for a lot of things. But here comes a mythologist. I'm really sorry. But you go to the pastry. No, I'm not. I'm just, that is a bit digression. I'm going to come back to food now. Well, you go to the shops and you can actually get cakes and jello in the shape of watermelon, and watermelon jello is so fun. It's everywhere. I don't know. They make watermelon shaped not candy, but tiny cakes, and it's really fun. It's not watermelon, but it looks like a watermelon. So it's
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that is very cute. But there's a lot of pastry places in Iran.
There are. And then another thing, and I have shown Seth pictures of this whenever I go, the pastry shops. The Iranian culture, Persian culture, is very much into art and music and design. And that you see that even when you go into the pastry shops, they're beautiful to look at. They put in so many designs on the cakes, on the cookies. It's all so intricately and delicately designed. It looks like a piece of art when you go into the bakeries and you go into the sweet shops. They have these windows full, and it's a masterpiece, honestly.
Yeah.
They put a lot of details in their food.
There was a very high, chic place in Khiyabon Valiaz.
I think I know it. Is that the one with the big, huge windows, and you had the huge pots of tokhmeh?
Yes.
And then if you go into the back, they had those huge. I know what you're talking about. Seth, I'm taking you there. It's great.
I mean, if you're not me, you're gonna have a very good time.
Yeah, if you're not into sweets, you may not like everything in there, but you can look.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I don't think that is big in Iran, is bastani, which is ice cream.
Bastani. Yes, ice cream is huge. There's a berry I kind of want to mention that we don't have here in the US. I don't know if it's popular in Europe either. It's a king mulberry, a Persian mulberry. They call it shatut over there. It looks like a blackberry, but it grows on a tree. It's huge. It's black and purple. It's very sweet, kind of tangy. And you can pluck this off the tree and eat it over there. And I've done that several times, but you can also put it in ice cream. And my favorite is shatut bastani. It tastes so good. And I can only get it whenever I go to Iran.
Ooh.
But another one that's very popular is saffron ice cream. I don't know if you've had it before, Lara.
Yes, I had it, and I'm sorry, I didn't like it, but that is not the Bastani's fault. That is, I am not into sweet things. That's the thing. All right, but you are listening to me. I say I don't like sweets, and I don't, but if I go to a new place, I will try absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Even to confirm that I don't like them. It's like, Okay, but I've seen people have the traditional saffron ice cream with carrot juice. If you put the ice cream,
oh yeah, they make a smoothie out of it.
Yeah, and you can eat it with a spoon or with a straw, and you have it like. I think I like the mixture a little bit better, but yeah, again, it was too sugary for me.
Yeah.
Saffron only on my tea. Thank you very much.
I will say, going back to ice cream, another popular thing is that they'll take the ice cream, usually saffron ice cream, and they'll wedge it between what looks like the kind of like wafers, like you would use an ice cream cone out of, but they're flat, and they make a sandwich out of it. That's a very popular thing.
We do that in Spain too a lot. Yeah, you would buy in at least, I don't know if this is done in Italy or like in Turkey, but you buy the block of ice cream and then you buy the wafers, and that's a very super popular thing to do in summer. Just to get a block of ice cream, get cut. We call them cuts, like to have me a cut, and the blocks can be one flavor, but some of them are like 3 flavor, like chocolate, raspberry, or vanilla, or like choose plain like cream, chocolate, and vanilla, so you can have like a wide variety of it, and then you put in the wafer and you eat it. When I saw that, I was like, oh, we're cousins. So we're practically cousins, Iranians and Spaniards. So yeah,
I do wish it would come over here to the US, because that's a really fun one too, and I miss that a lot. So moving away from snacks, I kind of want to talk really quick about some of our favorite meals. We mentioned before that, rice and bread are big staples, even in the big meals, but we haven't talked about what the actual meals are. So what are some of y'all's favorite meals that are from Iran?
My absolute favorite dish that I've had of Iranian food is a dish called takchin. Takchin is basically a rice and saffron and chicken cake. You marinate these strips of chicken breast in turmeric and saffron and salt overnight,
and lemon juice.
You cook them, and then you basically bake it into a layer cake of rice at the bottom of this pan, and the outside is this really like crispy, delicious flaky rice, and on the inside is this piping hot, delicious chickeny goodness. Speaking of crunchy rice, takdig would also be one of my favorite things about Iranian cooking.
Oh yeah.
Just about every rice dish that you make, you can also make takdig with. Takdig is basically just the crunchy kind of burnt dried rice at the bottom of the pan. It's often getting all of the flavors for whatever you put into the rice. Those are kind of accumulating at the bottom, and so the rice has picked up a very strong flavor, usually from herbs or maybe even some meats. In addition to that, there are other kinds of takdig that you can intentionally make, like adding some slices of potato to the bottom of the rice pan.
I love those so much.
Those become these very crispy, delicious, wafer-thin pieces of potato. My personal favorite is when you put a tortilla at the bottom of the rice pot, and then it becomes this very crunchy, olive oil flavored chip almost. And you just break off bits of it and eat it with your meal. It's amazing.
I've seen people fighting with takdig, and no wonder. Because in Levante, in the place I come from in Spain, we do have something similar. We don't create a layer properly, but the crustier part of the rice, we call it socarrat. I don't know if anyone is hearing from Spain, but it's the best part of the rice. So I see Spaniards and Iranians cousins.
There's a lot of things similar for sure. And like over here in the US, people don't know about takdig, and it's kind of crazy to me. Also, it took me a while to figure out how to make it, because you have to have your stove at the right temperature. You have to have the right amount of oil in the bottom. You don't have to have saffron, but saffron definitely helps with the flavor. But yeah, oh gosh, it's so good. It's practically like chips. It's like rice chips. So I love it. Oh yeah. What about you, Lara? What are some of your favorite meals?
So it's difficult for me because as I just like everything. I like Mirza Ghazali, I like Kashkabad I like it. But if I had to pick up two, I'm going to pick one because I really like it and the other because I love the concept of it. So first we have Serez Polova Morg. That is just basically chicken with rice and the serez, which is a type of berry that I've only seen growing in Iran. It's something like I think it's a typical thing only from there. I don't know if like bordering countries also have serez. I
actually don't know what the English word for zeresh is. I know it's a very tangy berry. I just don't know what it is.
But again, you get this sour punch. I don't know how to make it. I know how to enjoy it. You open your mouth and let the magic happen. So, and I really like Serez Polova Morg. And it's very, I think a part of the reason I like it is because it's very colorful. It's really, really colorful, and it's
the berries are like this beautiful red. It looks like there's jewels in the rice.
It's beautiful. So I would say that one. And then we move into the dish that divides people's opinions. You either love it or you hate it. We're talking about kale poche.
Oh, okay. I'm out. Nope.
Kale poche, but Josh, stay with me.
I'll stay.
Is
the head? I have to stay.
It is the head and the feet of the sheep, eaten from the sheep's head.
Yeah.
It's calling out all the people like me out in the world. At first, I was like, you kidding me? And then I saw it, and then I tried it, and I was ecstatic. I loved it. It's so, because I mean, it's not just the meat. You cook the meat, you prepare the veggies. There's a very rich broth in it, and you can have it with bread, you can have it with tea, and it's a recipe that takes very long to make. So that means there's super much flavor in it. And yes, I think you can have like cinnamon, garlic, and onions and carrots. I don't know, a lot of things. But I do. Some people just have it on the plate. I don't.
Seth just looked up Zereshk and Zereshka's Barbary.
I learned that my favorite flavor of lava shack is actually Zereshk flavored.
It's great. It's super nice.
So there we go. Zereshk, going back to Zereshk Polo, Zereshk is Barbary. So it's barberries are in the rice.
You should insert here the tune, like the music for the more you know.
All right, but going back to kale poche, I remember going to Iran once, and one of my relatives took me to the meat market, and in the meat market, they had every part of the sheep. They had the sheep's head with, I'm not kidding you, little bits of parsley in the mouth to, make it cuter on display. They had the sheep tongues, the sheep heart, they had sheep hooves. And, I'm not used to that, especially here in the US. I just don't see that a lot. I was very unnerved. I was just 12 years old when I saw all this. And I was like, what is happening? And my mother said, it really comes from back in the day. You worked with what you had. You made meals with what you had. They did not waste any part of the sheep. They used every part of it. And so that's why we have a lot of meals like that to this day. And she loves it. And I'll be honest with you, I've always been too queasy to try it. I have this beautiful Iranian recipe book. And one of the covers is the kale poche. And it is just this huge full page of kale poche. It's the big soup, and the sheep's head is right there in the middle. And it's always kind of, I'll be like, I'll just flip that page. I'll try it one day just to be a little brave. But I've never gotten over that one visit to the meat market with the sheep's heads with the parsley in the mouth. That always stuck with me.
You gotta make it festive. You gotta make it nice. Hey,
It might be something cultural because here, in Spain, we're very used to see that thing, and also the things with the pig and the pork. We have that. I remember my friends, when they were eating, some of them were very unnerved, and then I asked, "Can I keep the skull?" And one of my friends was like, "What is wrong with you?"
It must be a cultural thing then. Yeah, I need to broaden my horizons, even in my own culture, because this is clearly a normal thing in Europe too.
But to be fair, I mean, we're talking here, variety is the true beauty of life. So, but Che, if you're listening to us and you're thinking like, no, it's fine. You don't have to. We're not forcing
to make you eat.
If you don't eat calipoche, you can still enjoy your visit to Milan.
You're not going to lose points in any competition or whatever if you're not into it. I totally get it. It is very unnerving to see a sheep's head in the middle of a bowl.
Looking at you.
It's not that different from adding like a pig bone to soup to make very flavored soup or something like that.
This is true.
It's literally just to make the soup.
But it looks at you.
Of course, you can also. It does look at you. You can take the bits of. You can get somebody to serve you the meat off of the skull, so you don't have to do that yourself.
I think in fine restaurants they won't put the skull. That's like a super. The thing with the skull is a super traditional thing. But if you go to a restaurant, they will bring a plate. Don't worry.
Right. Surely,
you a bowl.
You won't have to look at the actual head. Just enjoy the soup part of it.
Yeah, just forget that it came off a face.
What about you, Sarah? What are your favorite ones?
So any Iranians who are about to hear my list are going to be like, oh my God, she took the stereotypical meals and made them her favorites. But
hey, they're good, okay?
They're good. They're traditional for a reason.
Exactly. So my favorites are gourmet sabzi and sabzi polo kuku mahi. So I'll talk about, I know that's a lot of Persian words I just said. So gourmet sabzi is essentially a braise that you put over rice. And in the braise, you have finely chopped parsley and cilantro and all these other herbs. And it's cooked with beef and kidney beans, and you put in these dried lemons, and that kind of gives it the sour flavor. And you pour that over the rice, and it has this I don't know how to describe the flavor, but it's got this very tangy flavor from the lemon, and it's got the herbs that are in there, and then you got the bits of meat, and it's just, I love it so much. But it's so difficult to make. I have tried like 5 or 6 times now to make it, and I can never get the flavor right. It's like a staple in Iranian cuisine. This is like one of the most popular meals. And I can't make it. It's really hard. I can't get that sourness just perfect. And I kind of want to share a funny story when Seth and I first started dating. And I brought him over to my mom's place so we could all have a meal together.
Oh God, you're going to tell this story?
I am. Great.
Tell it.
We were having gourmet sabzi, and I remember we're sitting there, we're talking, we're eating, and I look over, and Seth has in his spoon one of the dried lemons that had been soaking in the braise. And the dried lemons, you guys, are very, very bitter, very sour. Though they're in the stew, you don't want to eat them. They're just there to enhance the flavor. And the Iranians know if you see the dried lemon, don't eat it, just put it to the side of your plate, leave it alone. I didn't remember to tell Seth this.
I had 2 of those lemons.
No,
I
didn't. Because I thought I didn't say anything because I thought that's what this was supposed to taste like.
I didn't see him eat the first one, but the second one.
I don't want to be rude. I'm just going to swallow it and my soul with it.
Just. I'm gonna bear with this.
And I watched
never
the
eat this again.
spoon get closer to his mouth. I'm like, Seth, no, you're not supposed to eat that. And he went ahead and ate it anyways because he was trying to be polite in front of my mom. We were both like, no, what have you done?
You feel like cue into dramatic music, like in slow motion. Seth, no.
So thankfully, Seth did not break up with me after that.
No.
And he hasn't eaten any of those dried lemons since. Or at least not on purpose.
Every once in a while, I'll just do it because sometimes I just want to try it.
I don't know why.
Sometimes I love lemons.
Sometimes the lemons will break apart and you think it's a piece of meat and you eat it. You're like, nope, that was the lemon.
Can we talk about that other Iranian superpower? Their ability to like eat a lemon by itself.
Hey, we have it. I do have it too.
How?
I love
that seems
lemons.
impossible.
It's not.
I can't even look at a lemon without feeling that taste in my mouth.
Yeah, it's a very.
I put
Don't
lemon.
forget that
I
flavor.
never drink my water plain. There's always lemon in it.
That's different though. When the lemon is dried, it's a whole new.
No, yeah, I mean for sure, yeah.
But I will, for Seth's sake, go ahead and move on to the other one, which is sabzi polo kuku mahi. This is an entire meal. This is like one whole dish. It's kind of a combo of things that you eat all together. So sabzi polo is basically, polo is the word for rice. And so in this rice, you put, you put cilantro in there, and the green onions and dill, and you mix it all in there. And you basically, the rice becomes this herb rice. It's nice and green flavor, and it's beautiful, it's delicious, but you also eat it with kuku, which I've always described it as a vegetable quiche. You put a lot of eggs in there. That also has like the cilantro and the parsley, and you also add lettuce and green onions in that one. And it's delicious. It's basically a vegetable omelet, a vegetable quiche. And then the last one is fish, and you soak the fish in saffron and lemon, and then you coat it in flour, you dump it in egg, and then you fry it. And you have all of this together. You have the sabzi polo and the kuku and the mahi all together, sometimes with a slice of lemon on the side to kind of spruce it up a little. And it's absolutely delicious. And it's a very popular New Year's dish. It's a Nowruz dish.
Because it's green.
Because it's green, and green is for good luck.
Uh-huh. And also because of
like
another bunch of other reasons. Don't worry, I'm trying to trick them into calling me again so I can actually go down the mythology road. Stay tuned for that.
But yeah, and now I'm realizing it. Both of the dishes that I picked to talk about are green, but they're my two favorites. They're my two absolute favorites. I love them so much. And I know they're very typical Iranian dishes, but I love them, and I'm not taking it back.
Exactly. I mean, Seth said it properly. There's a reason for them being so popular. I think Serex Polo Morgue is also super popular. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like the thing. Because I will say
that's one of the more beautiful dishes for sure.
It looks pretty.
All right, Seth, we should probably start wrapping it up. Did you say you wanted to do a conclusion and then I'll do the recipes?
Yeah, I'll do a quick wrap up.
Okay.
Okay, so to kind of summarize what we've talked about, Iranian food is very unique and distinct from a lot of different cultures' food. Some of the flavors that kind of characterize it, Iranians really love sour and bitter things, especially in their desserts. Things like sour cherries, barberries, Sarah mentioned shatut. They really like using yogurt in their cooking, which has kind of this adds this really acidy and bitter flavor to a lot of their cuisine. Saffron is a big component to a lot of their foods. It has kind of this floral, difficult to describe taste. What else would you say? What other kind of flavors have we talked about that really summarize Iranian food?
I think there's a lot more tangy flavors in Iranian cuisine than you'd find in other places. And also there's not a lot of spicy stuff.
No.
You don't get a lot of things that'll burn your tongue flavor-wise.
Not really, no.
Bitter would be, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, we'd call it like it's flavor is a very important part, but you have very distant flavors, like in the palate, in the sense that you have very sour stuff, you have super sweet stuff and super salty stuff. So yeah, I really like it. I think one word I would describe Iranian cuisine with is color, because the importance of color, and I'm talking about saffron, of course, but I'm talking about the combination of different colors to make your dishes appetizing, or just like you have green with the sabzi. You always have greens with your food normally, and then you have the berries, which are very, very rich red color. So yeah, I don't know. I just like it. I like how it looks. And I think because I have a lot of people, like my friends that like to cook, and they said that you ought to make your meal appetizing to your eyes. So it's like, aha, and I'm going to eat it because it looks pretty. So I would say it's pretty. I don't know. I may be entirely mistaken, but I think it's pretty.
I would agree with that. A lot of it is like the display is really important in Iranian cuisine, and how it looks is a very big thing. I don't think they always meant to do it like that, but you're right. There's such a variety of colors in the different meals that you pick out.
I would say another element of the dinners, at least when it comes to more savory cuisine, is definitely the satisfaction of getting the first bite into it. There are a lot of recipes that have kind of a crust on the outside. It's extremely satisfying to be the one to kind of break through that crust to get yourself a slice of like takjin or takdig.
That first bite of takdig.
There's some satisfaction to like being the first to scoop up a big pile of gorma sabzi. Satisfaction to getting the top layer of the sabzi polo.
Yes.
And even better, when you do get to the bottom, there's still something there to find.
Because then you got the takdig.
Yep.
I will say the biggest thing is that whenever I eat a Persian meal, I never feel as full in my stomach, as satisfied in my stomach until I've had a Persian meal. There's something about it that it really satisfies your stomach. It really sits there for a long time. You sleep very good after a Persian meal.
Mm-hmm.
It's about as intense as far as flavor and meal capacity as what we would consider here in the States as a Thanksgiving meal or a Christmas meal. It's just that big and that heavy. But it's also very healthy. A lot of it is super healthy and really good for you. And that's something I've always appreciated, is that you use a lot of herbs and you use a lot of vegetables. And it's not only delicious, a lot of it is really good for you.
A lot of Iranian food is also vegan friendly.
Ah, yes. You could just leave out the meat on some of them and it'll still
with minor substitutions. Yeah.
You'd have to put some substitutions in there. Yeah.
But there are so many good vegetable dishes. It's crazy.
It is, yeah. Like Iranian veggies are just amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, I am hungry.
I know. We're going to have to wrap this up soon so we can have something to eat.
Hopefully, if we did our job properly, you listeners are also hungry.
So I'm assuming some people out there want to start making their own meals. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how to make rice, because again, that's a huge staple in Iranian foods. So obviously everyone has their own way of making rice, but I'd like to put this disclaimer out to everyone. Whenever you're making rice, please wash it first. You don't have to do anything else in any of these steps I'm about to share with you about how to make Persian rice. But if you're going to have rice, please rinse it, please wash it, do something with it. I have had too many friends make rice and they just throw it into the boiling water and they say, we're good now. And as a Persian, I can't stand that. And I want everyone here to please start having the habit of washing your rice. The reason for that is that there's starch over the rice. There's also dirt and dust. And occasionally there are bugs will get into the rice. The best way to do it, and this is what I always do, is I put my rice in a bowl and I fill it up with water. I rinse it around with my fingers. I squish it around. I dump out the water and I basically repeat that a couple of times. Then what you want to do is you want to put it in a pot of boiling water that has salt in it. You want to put a bunch of salt in the boiling water, put your rice in there. Keep an eye on it. You don't want to cook it all the way through, because what you want to do is when it's halfway cooked, that means you take out a few of them. And if you chew on it, you're like, it's still a little bit hard, but it's also kind of soft. Dump it back out. Put it in a strainer, dump it all out. This is where if you want to make takdig, you can totally do this. Put oil in the bottom of your pot, set it at about, I'd say medium-low heat. It depends on your stove. I'd say medium-low heat is about where you put it. Put oil in the bottom If you want to put slices of potato in the bottom, you can do that. If you have saffron, you can add that in there. It's not a requirement. And then put all the rice back in. Put a few ventilation holes in the piles of rice. Butter is a really awesome thing to add in there. Put in a lot of butter because that'll make it very fluffy and savory. If you have saffron, add some saffron in there. And then when you put the lid on top, don't just put the lid on there, put some sort of cloth over it. Some people will put they'll wrap the lid in a towel and then they'll put it on top. Some people have this very special cloth with an elastic that you just kind of wrap it around the lid and you put it on there. And then you let it sit for about 30 minutes maybe. And then your rice is fully cooked. It's delicious. It's fluffy. It's amazing. And ta-da, you've made Persian style rice.
Yay! Now you eat it.
Yep.
And if you did it right, the tactig will be crispy on the bottom. And if it isn't crispy yet, you can do what I have done, which is take out all the rice and just let the tactig sit a little bit longer. If you do this, please watch it, guys. Don't do what I did and just walk away and start eating your meal and then forget about the tactig and it burns to a crisp and you can't eat any of it. Don't do that. Because I did that once and that was a very sad day because we had no tactig that day. Seth has already kind of covered how to make tea. But yeah, if you want to have black tea, put it on top of in the tiny teapot, have your samovar or a bigger teapot underneath for the boiling water. It's good. We should definitely talk about how to make masto khiyar. Because that is part of the title of our podcast. We should probably tell y'all how to make that.
I mispronounce it once a month.
No, you don't.
Better.
You do an amazing job.
If you look back to the previous episodes, you've improved a lot.
Oh, good.
So masto khiyar is basically, mast is the word for yogurt and khiyar is the word for cucumber. So what you do is you need, and guys, something to note about this recipe I'm about to give you. This comes straight from my mother, who does not believe in measurements. She's
like any other mom out in the world.
Like lots of moms out there, there's no measurement. She just says, eye it and taste test it until you like how it tastes.
How is that a thing? I mean, because I remember this is such a grandma / mom thing.
And she makes it perfect every time. And
and when you ask for proper measurements, she's like, I don't know.
Just until it looks good. So I will give you guys this recipe that my mother gave me. And if you guys want to try it at home, do what I do, try your own measurements and hope for the best. Mm-hmm. So you want some plain yogurt. You can go and buy some plain Greek yogurt at the store. You don't want anything too sweet, just your plainest, most simple yogurt. I would say 3 cups of yogurt, maybe. I don't know. I've never measured it.
You don't even
Usually we just go by a whole carton.
We'll buy a whole carton or we just make our own and just add to it. You want about 1 or 2 cucumbers. You want mint, kind of crushed mint, salt, pepper, and you want a little bit of onion and a little bit of garlic, not a lot. You're not going to use a whole onion for this. But what you're going to do is you're going to take a grater and you're going to grate the cucumbers, not chop them up. You're going to grate them into the yogurt.
Into long streams, kind of like a cheese grater, right?
Yeah, kind of like a cheese grater. And then you're going to chop up the mint, the onion, and the garlic as finely as you can. And you add that to the yogurt. You sprinkle in a little salt and pepper. You mix that together. And that's how you make masto khiyar. It's a simple sounding recipe, but it all depends on what you add to it. It's very, it tastes great when you get it right. There have been times I've added too much salt.
Guys, you have to try it. It's amazing. And it's super simple. I think it's a very nice recipe to try cook with your kids if you have them at home because it's so simple.
It's a very easy recipe and it's so good as a side dish. It's almost like a palate cleanser in a lot of ways.
I actually eat it for breakfast a lot. I mean, it's honestly a good pick-me-up.
Mm-hmm. There have been several times when I was growing up and I was sick and there wasn't a lot of meals that I wanted to eat, but I always ate masto khiyar. There was something about it that it was simple enough and it had all the nutrients that I needed to get better. And honestly, my mother would give me a bowl of masto khiyar and then a packet of crackers, usually the Ritz crackers. And I would just dip the crackers in the masa khiyar and I would eat it like that. But I highly recommend it. It's absolutely delicious. So those are all the meals that I had to share. I'll probably share more the next time we do a food episode, which is not going to be for a while, but I think I'll look up some more recipes that are kind of simple. But there you go. You have your basics. You've got how to make rice, how to make tea, and how to make masa khiyar.
Yes, and just for the record, those who are listening, you probably, if you're Iranian or you are into Iranian cuisine, it's like, oh, but they didn't mention insert in this blank, whatever name of dish we didn't mention. That is because Iranian cuisine, as Iranian culture, is vast, is rich, and is abundant. So it was impossible for us. I mean, we could be talking for hours about this, but it's impossible to mention all of them. So if we didn't mention this time, do not despair. That only means Seth and Sarah are going to mention it in another episode because there's still so much to discover and for you guys to learn. And believe me, you're in good hands with this too.
And honestly, I do think we're going to have to do like 2 or 3 more episodes at least to cover all the different food cuisines. Like we haven't even gone into the desserts. There's a lot we haven't gone into. We haven't gone into like different regions and what foods they're famous for, because the Persian culture is very diverse. There was a lot of nomadic tribes, and each nomadic tribe had their own culture and had their own dances and music and food. And there's such diversity in the Persian culture, and that includes the food. We could sit here all day and we wouldn't be able to cover all of it. So there will definitely have to be more episodes in the future that cover way more than what we covered today.
Definitely.
But it was so much fun. And Laura, I'm so glad you were here with us. This was a blast. It was so much fun talking cuisine with someone else who was eating Iranian food, and it's been so much fun.
It was good to have you as our first guest on our podcast.
Yeah. I know. I feel so humbled and honored. It's just thank you so much, guys, for having me. It's been great. I've been binge listening to your podcast since I knew of you, and then we talked for the first time and we became friends because we have a lot of things in common apart from our love and devotion towards the shahnameh and Persian cuisine.
Yes, we did find out that we're both very big nerds too.
Yes, we are. But thank you so much. I really hope I don't know, this podcast just deserves absolutely everything, and I really hope this continues for very long. And it's been my biggest pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute honor to have you. And we'd like to invite you again in the future because we're about to cover what is, I think you and I both agree, this is like our favorite story of the Shahnameh that I'm about to cover. And it's huge, but yeah, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the episode here. So, my friends, my listeners, if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on Twitter at MazanderCast. That's MazanderCast. We will announce the next episode through our Twitter, so spread the word.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on current and future episodes. If there's any topics you'd like us to cover or stories you want to share with us, email us at MazanderCast@gmail.com. Same spelling as our Twitter handle.
And thank you for having me. If you want to know a little bit more about Iranian or Mesopotamian art, history, literature, or mythology, you can follow my project on Twitch, on Twitter, and on Instagram if you fancy. It's called Las Plumas de Simurgh, spelled LASPLUMASDESIMURGH. Sorry, it's long, I know. But if you start typing, you will find out. And if not, you can always check the MazanderCast part. I shall be there somewhere.
And we've been plugging her a lot. So if you follow our Twitter, you will find her. We retweet her a lot. A special thanks to Dr. Lynn for our cover art. Check out more of her work at LorraineLynn.com. That's LorraineLIN.com.
We thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We hope you'll stick around for more in the future.
As always, we hope you'll have good thoughts,
good words,
and good deeds.
Khodafis!